All right, number 8 is another problem where we're going to want to use the zero product property. We're going to want to get one side equal to 0, and then factor, and then use the zero product property to solve for theta. But it's got one little twist to it. So let's start off by getting one side equal to 0. So we'll add tangent squared of theta to both sides. So we get 0 equals 2 plus 2 secant theta plus tangent squared theta. So this, we can't factor that because this is a secant, this is a tangent. So here we need to use one of our Pythagorean identities. We know that 1 plus tangent squared is equal to secant squared. And so tangent squared, if we subtracted 1 from both sides, tangent squared is equal to secant squared minus 1. So, so we can replace this tangent squared with secant squared minus 1. So let's do that. So we get 0 equals 2 plus 2 secant theta plus secant squared theta minus 1. All right, so now let's combine these two like terms. 2 minus 1 is 1. And then let's also rearrange this to make it easier to factor. So we'll put the secant squared first. Secant squared theta plus 2 secant theta, and then plus 1. And now we can factor this. So we'll put our parentheses here. In order to multiply the secant squared theta, our first terms need to be secant theta, both of them. So secant times secant theta times secant theta is secant squared theta. And then to get this last term, 1, we need our second terms to both be 1. Both of these are positive, so both of these got to be positive. So we get 0 equals secant theta plus 1 squared. And now here's where we would set each of these equal to 0. But since they're both the same, we can just set 1 equal to 0. So secant theta plus 1 equals 0. We'll subtract 1 from both sides. We get secant theta equals negative 1. All right, now secant is not on your unit circle. So in order to find this on your unit circle, let's change this into something we know. Remember that secant is the reciprocal of cosine. So if we take the reciprocal of both sides, we get 1 over secant, which is cosine, is equal to 1 over negative 1, which is still negative 1. So cosine of theta is equal to negative 1. And we look on our unit circle and we see that cosine of theta is equal to negative 1 when theta is equal to pi.